Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America, and you are tuned into our podcast, The Secret War on Cash, where as we find ourselves actually still in the midst of a war, we have been talking about this war on our cash, which has been taking place. It's been intensified over the last several years, but it's been taking place really for decades now. I have my co-host with me, Chris Agelastos, to talk to us today about some of the recent things or developments that are happening in the Middle East and some of the things that we may have to look forward to in the future. So, Chris, I hope you're ready with all kinds of ammunition and information for us.
Yeah, I'll fire off a few rounds.
All right, perfect. Very apropos given what's going on.
Yeah, no kidding.
So let's see. The first article we have here out of the Economic Collapse blog is the war with Iran is increasing costs for U.S. businesses. No shocker there. And the price hikes that we have seen so far are just the beginning. Really no shock there either. I mean, this is something that, everybody, I think, we've been hearing about and kind of anticipated. The bottom line is that, this is something that the numbers, as you start going through this article, look pretty severe. I mean, the consequences are very severe. And we really, even though it's already started to take hold, the increase in prices, the warning they are basically issuing here is that this isn't anything compared to what's ahead of us. So, I mean, with that being said, Chris, the outlook for this is not only is it not good, but we really are just kind of, I think we're at the tail end, or may have just kind of finished where the pre-war oil tankers have kind of hit the various ports throughout the world that they were supposed to. And now that shortage is really going to start to take hold. Is that kind of a safe statement or a safe thing to say?
Yeah, I think so. I think I saw in there that approximately about 30% less oil production is coming out of the Strait of Hormuz than before the conflict. So we're going to continue to see the effects of that, obviously. And what's tough about this is we've already been talking about inflation and feeling inflation, more importantly, ever since COVID, right? And there were some big spikes during there, and then it came back a little bit. But I mean, this has been an ongoing challenge, and now this is a whole new push, really, that's causing prices to climb even higher. And everybody expects the fuel prices, oil, with rising oil prices and diesel and jet fuel prices, that's going to affect transportation. But really, that affects everything else in our supply chain. If it costs more to move goods and products around the world, then we're going to see it in our groceries and regular household goods, and obviously travel, but even building materials. So, projects around the house, right? All of those things are going to go up, and it's a bit of a delayed reaction because the first bullets were fired. Gosh, I think, is it close to maybe 2 months ago now, or somewhere around there? And we still haven't really seen all of the effects because we're using a lot of reserves, currently to kind of weather some of the storm. But we've already seen a good jump in prices. So it looks like it's going to continue. And even if the bullets stopped flying, we're still going to see those price increases work their way through the system. And they say, especially with small businesses, because bigger companies, they have deeper pockets. They can weather some of this a little bit better. But small businesses have to increase their prices right away because they just don't have the reserves and the cash flow to be able to, take a hit on their side and not pass that on to the consumer. So, I mean, they're warning that we're going to see this continue for quite some time. And when you throw interest rates and currency debasement and everything else in there, it just makes it even worse.
Sure. Well, and I'll tell you, I think with a lot of people out there, there's this tendency to become kind of desensitized towards this situation, thinking this is all politics. It's a lot of financial and political jockeying that's taking place. But I will tell you, as you know, but for those tuned in, I just returned from Africa yesterday, and on one of my flights before I got onto my international flight coming back to the U.S., I was talking to a gentleman. He's from Dubai, and he was going back because of all of the fighting and whatnot in the Middle East. His wife had contacted him and said, you need to get back here. He has a couple of young kids, get back so they could, figure out what they were going to do. But he was talking about being in Dubai. They usually run about 9 million people there in terms of a population. And just as this has occurred, he says it's down to like 2 million people now. It's a ghost town.
Wow.
And my point being is that this is more than just politics. This is real. I mean, this is something that, that in that area, they're already making the adjustments. And so as it's been talked about before, but I think what's critical for people to understand is like the damage that's been done, the disruption that's occurred. We're at a point where it's not as though they're just going to be able to flip a switch and turn it all back on again. Now, there are some that would say that, this is what's going to bring people back to U.S. oil and other avenues, and maybe that's true. But as you read that article, as I did, you're talking about millions and millions of barrels a day of oil that was once there that's not. Those are big shortfalls that need to be made up. And again, in that article, talk about, one of the things I think you saw was with Inc. with the big, it's like a potato chip manufacturer in Japan, I believe it is. And they're known for their real colorful packages, but because of this disruption, they've actually had to switch their packaging to black and white packaging versus the color, because they don't have the resources to put it in that full color again. So that's, I mean, again, I think this is a lot, I guess what I'm trying to say here, Chris, a lot more real than what most people understand, because again, I think we've been a little desensitized to, we've heard all these bad things and all these bad stories in all of our life, and it just seems like things keep going. I think this one is different. And that actually is a good lead in into our next article. What's really, as this is going on, the war and all the price inflation, et cetera, this from the Daily Reckoning, nothing stops this train. And what I guess what I'm getting at here is you look at the disruption, the supply chain disruption that we have with the war, but as that's happening, our debt, our deficits, all that continues to grow. It's a whole separate fire all to itself, and it's a fire that's gaining steam and gaining momentum. And as one of the things that kind of hit me as I was reading through this, Chris, is we're all desensitized to hearing about the debt, the interest, all these things, because they always just figure out a way. But understand, we've been doing this podcast now for a little over 2 years, I believe it is. And when we started doing this, the interest on the debt, if I'm not mistaken, was $1 trillion a year. We're now at like $2 trillion a year. And it just speaks to, just how out of control it is. And that's why, as they're saying here, nothing is going to stop this train.
Yeah. And you're right. It's that exponential growth that we're seeing in the debt load that is causing a lot of these problems. And in this article, they had a great chart there that you just saw where, debt was relatively stable up through the middle of the 80s. I mean, we had a little spike in World War II, but then we got it right back under control, right? And we're back on course. And then all of a sudden, from the 80s on, and especially 2005 to today, it's gone almost vertical. I mean, if you look at the chart there, it's like firing off like at 1 o'clock position on the clock, and it just has no end in sight. And that's really what they're talking about here, that federal growth has actually overtaken the private sector. So we have, instead of private businesses in our country growing and booming, we actually have federal debt growing more than businesses in our country. And you can't sustain that long term. And the Fed used to just be able to increase interest rates and kind of slow things down, calm inflation down a little bit. But now we have so much debt that increasing those interest rates actually hurts our government as well, because we're paying interest on all of this debt. So, they can't just pump the brakes like they used to be able to tweak the economy. They have to do bigger moves, and every time they do it, those moves become less effective for the next time. And that's kind of where we are now in this continued, money printing, rising debt cycle, that inflation is just, it's really just now built into our system, to where people are, I think, somewhat desensitized to it when they hear about it. But of course, when they see the dollars leaving their account, and they don't have enough left over at the end of the month to maybe even cover their regular bills, that's when they really feel it. And that's where it looks like this is continuing to head, unfortunately.
Oh, 100%. And, as the earlier article said, interest rates and higher inflation, that's, imminent. I mean, that's on the way. And as this article says, that is only going to exacerbate this problem. So
Right.
it's really, we don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but at the end of the day, we're fighting math here at this point, and that's a fight we're not going to win. All right, Chris. Well, thank you. And for those of you tuned in, thanks for doing so. If you're not subscribed to this podcast, please do so, as we'd love to talk to you more in the future. If you'd like some more information to receive, in fact, your complimentary or free report, The Secret War Against Cash, you can contact us via text or phone at 1-800-289-2646, or also visit us online at www.swissamerica.com. You'll see both the number as well as the web address in our show description. And thanks for tuning in. Look forward to talking to you more in the future, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. Take care.